Hey, welcome back, guys. All right, so far so good. We can invite someone and mark it as invited, but the important thing is to get a notification for the other person to tell them that they've been invited. So because we need to add an invitation and we've run out of users to invite, so I'm just going to temporarily disable this so that we can click invite a couple of times more. Okay, so I will go to the user group invite.php here, because this is where we display this thing from. So what I will do is I will just put if true here like that, and then put or. That way it will always show this one, because true is always true. Yeah. Okay, so just remember to revert that back eventually, so that now I can click as many times as I want, which is good. Now let's look at the notifications table, shall we? So that we remember how to, or we figure out how to give a notification for the specific item. Okay. So usually here, what happens is when trying to get a notification, or before we get to that part, the user ID is usually the person that does the notifying, right? So this person, in this case, we have this person that liked, that's the activity, this content, and the owner of the content is this one. Okay. And there we go. The content type is a post, and so on. So it looks simple enough. So let's give it a shot and see what will happen. So in our case, we have two people and a group that neither of them actually own. So this is a bit of a problem, because content owner will always be the owner of the group itself, right? So we don't want the owner of the group getting all these crazy notifications. So we'll see what we can do about that. Okay. Or what we can do is make sure that content owner is the person that is being invited instead, because here we don't have a way to actually add the person that's being invited, because user ID is the person that's inviting the other person, and then content ID obviously will be the group, and then the content owner in this case shall be replaced by the one that is being invited. Okay, so let's look at how our function actually works, so that we can give it all these details in a better way. So what I would do is go to my classes inside functions and find the function add notification. So to search is obviously faster. So this is how we're going to do it, but we won't use tagged user because we are not tagging anybody. But let me copy this. Let me put a spacebar just so it doesn't disappear when I select another file. Okay, so what I'm looking for now is the place where we do the invitation from, which is group content invite. Is that the place? Okay, so yeah, so now I will go to the group class, and here is where the function is for a get invited. No, invite to group. Okay, so there we are, invite to group. So right here we have a few items. We have the group ID, we have the user ID, and the person being invited, and then we have me. So we kind of have a recipe here, but the only missing thing is we need a row of the content. Yes. So what content is that? In our case, it's the group. Okay, So let's come here. We have to put the notification right after inserting into the group of invites, because a notification is of secondary importance than to actually add the record into the database. So add notification, right? Notify user or invitation. Okay, very good. Now the activity obviously is invite, so we're just going to write invite there. The row is the row of the group. User ID is the current user, who is me, so I will copy that. Oh, sorry there, I'm fighting with my mouse again. I do need a better mouse. Okay, there we go. So we have me, we have invite, and we have the group row. Now there's an issue here, because what happens is if we go to the functions and add notification, you notice that this row is where the content owner is taken from. So let's see that in Axiom. So there's content owner here on number 1, 2, 3. Yes, so 1, 2, 3, content owner right there. But where is this content owner taken from? So there we go. Content owner is equal to row user ID. Okay, so it starts there. And oh, I see. All right, so it comes from the row user ID, which is right here, as I thought. So in our case, if we add the group row here, we're going to get the user ID, who is the person that created. Actually, that's not even true. The user ID in this case is just the ID of the content, which in our case is just the group ID. So that is completely useless to us at this point. So what I will do here is put another if statement here, just to check if this is a group. Then we're going to have to change the content owner. Or what we could do is, instead of having to change how our function works, we can simply supply the required information in the row, so that when it does get the row user ID, it gets the correct one. But then there's an issue of getting the content ID itself. So there's content ID there. So where does content ID come from? So content ID here is coming from the user ID again. So if we do replace it over here, then we are going to have a problem when it came to this part here. Okay, so none of these are big problems. We can easily solve them. Now, before we go to that side, let's look at this for a moment. There is row gender. We're saying if the row gender is set, because we're assuming this is a profile, if there is gender. Now, we set this up long before we had groups in there. So this could be wrong, because row gender will be true, will be set even for a group. So the content type will be defaulted to profile, and then the content ID will go there. But what we will do here, instead of content type going to profile automatically, we're just going to set it to type itself. Because remember that if we go to the users table, you will see that now we have a typed column which contains group or profile. So we don't really need to type it to make it hard-coded there. We can just get whatever the type is at the time. So I'm going to change that to type like that. Okay, so that's much better. So we'll get our group there, which is good. And then content ID, row user ID. Now, okay. So in our case, the row is equal to a group. Now, in a group here, owner is the owner there. Okay, that's the one that owns the group. So what we can do is use the owner column to sneak in the person that we have invited. Okay, so here content ID is equal to row user ID. That's okay, because sometimes owner isn't set for normal profiles. But we can put an if statement here and say if content type is equal to group, then we can do something else. So I'll copy this for a second and say if content type is equal to group, like that. So this is now a case where, yes, a case where this is a group. Instead of user ID, we're going to use owner, like so. Okay, so that will be the content ID. Wait a minute. Oh, no. I'm supposed to be dealing with the owner, content owner, not, yes. So 1 second there. Okay. All right, so here the content ID for profile was user ID. Okay. I think we should leave that there. What we need to change is content owner here. Okay, so my bad here. Let me cut this out. Sorry about that. So that remains as it is. That remains as it is. Okay. But I think it's here we have to actually address. So what did I do? Control Shift D. That's what I was looking for. And if, so let me put that if statement. I just need to replace this whole thing like that. If content type, but content type isn't set here. This is the problem again. Okay, so let me undo for a second here and make my mind up. I'll get this content owner here, copy that, come down here where this will be true, and I'll paste here. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I completely ruined all this. Okay, let me just type it instead of doing all this copy and paste stuff. So I will say content owner, no, actually content type. I had already done this. Okay, so if content type is equal to group, then I will copy what is here. Oh no, I messed this up as well. So let me move that back here and move that R there. Owner, content owner. Ooh. How did I get to this point really? Oh, okay. So I will copy that. Content owner is equal to, here I will put owner, like this. Okay, so the idea is that if this is a group that we're dealing with, then the content owner should be the owner and not the user ID. Okay, so regardless what was added here, we're going to override it later at the bottom there. Okay, sorry about the zigzag there, but I think we finally get to a point where this is viable. So the only thing is that when I supply the row here, I have to provide the correct owner. I'm going to replace the owner because I don't want the owner of the group to be getting the notifications. I want the person that is being invited to get the notifications. So there is our row there, but our row is the group itself, the group row. So what I want to do is there should be a function here where I can get a group. Should there be not? Okay, so there's get my groups and then there's get group. Okay, so this is the one right here that I want. So I'm going to copy that because remember, return read get group. Okay, so it gets one, but it doesn't return only the first one. Okay, so I see it there. Now let me come back here to, where is that? Okay, there I go. So I do want to get the row, so I'm going to say row is equal to this, because we are in here, get group, and then I'll put the ID there. Now the ID is obviously group ID, like so. Okay, so I'm going to get a group there, but this will return an array of objects, so I have to get just the first item, just the first item there. So I will do row is equal to row 0, like this. Okay, now this will only work if this returns an actual value. Okay, if it doesn't, then we have a problem. So I just have to put an if statement here and say if row, if is array row, this is the only time we can send a notification. Otherwise, we're just going to ignore all this and then move that to the bottom. Okay, so if is array row is equal to that, but also remember that I need to change the owner to this user ID. Okay, this is the person I'm inviting, so I want to copy that and change it right here. So I'll say row like that, user ID, no, row owner is what we are changing, is equal to user ID, like that. Okay, I think that actually does it. So let's check now if we're going to create a notification of some kind. Back here, let's go to the very last notification, shall we? And it's number 34. So let's see if we can create a new one. Click. Okay, so the deed is done. Let's see if there's number 35 here. No, nothing. Okay, so we failed to create a notification, so we must check why that happened in the next video.